Learning to read. Every homeschool parent's number one goal with their kids. Some kids are reading great at 4 years old, and sometimes we're still waiting at 8, 9, and 10 years old. I heard an old wives' tale a long time ago that said that a child isn't ready to read until they have lost 4 baby teeth. I'm not sure if that's totally true, but it did seem to be true with my boys. I've also heard along those same lines that a baby's not ready digestively to have solid food until they have one tooth broken through in their gums. Development is totally different for each child, and the timing is different. There is not one age that we could say every child can read proficiently at this age. We have to be adaptable in seeing where our kids are at. Boys and girls learn differently as well. So I remember with my oldest son, I don't remember what I used to teach him, but I did phonics with him and he did fine. I think he was reading about 6.5 years old. But then with the next three, I decided that I wanted to find an awesome curriculum. There had to be something great out there that would teach phonics. So there was a recent release called Spell to Write and Read curriculum that not only taught the children how to read and all of the phonograms, but it taught them spelling and handwriting all at once. It was the complete package. I was excited and went to 2 conferences to learn how to implement this and use it correctly, and then I brought it home and used it with the kids. Well, surprisingly, it didn't bring anything except tears and frustration, but they weren't reading. They weren't spelling. They weren't understanding. So, and after 2 years, the results were no different. But I just had thought, I'm going to keep going. I want to make sure this program has a chance. Well, one of the things that Spell to Write and Read does is they teach the vowel sounds all together. So when you learn an A, you learn a, ah. You learn all 3 sounds. When you learn the I, you learn I, e. So then when a child sees the word cat or sip, they don't know which vowel sound to use because there's 3 choices. Now the curriculum, yes, does tell them that they can use the first one is the most frequently used sound, so most likely that first sound will work. Well, that doesn't work with the child because their minds aren't thinking in that way. I realized at that point that that was an abstract thinking skill. And my children at this age were all concrete thinkers. A concrete thinker can only see or think about what they actually can see. An abstract thinker can draw conclusions, they can connect dots, the right and left brain cross quickly. I can take information from somewhere else and add it to something in the present. And that isn't possible for concrete thinkers. Their brains haven't developed to that point yet. So when telling them you can sometimes use this sound or sometimes to that, it was too ambiguous. It was too unclear. And their brains just didn't know when to apply it and when not to. And that is what really brought the most frustration. So seeing my almost 9-year-old daughter after 2 years of this not being able to read at all, I got rid of the Spell to Write and Read curriculum and I went on a mission to find something that was meant for my child and their development at this reading stage. So God led me to the Abeka Phonics and Reading Curriculum. Now, I am not a textbook girl. I prefer the more non-traditional homeschooling methods. But as I dug deeper into their phonics and reading program, I realized and understood that they had a solid, amazing approach. It was incremental and there was no guesswork. The best thing that I saw was their first step was that they made sure the child learns and recognizes all of the short vowel sounds. The second thing they do is the child learns and recognizes all of the consonants. Thirdly, they blend the consonants with the short vowel sounds. Fourth, then they read 1 vowel words, which will all be short vowel words. Then after that, they learn the long vowel sounds. They learn to recognize them and their sounds, and they learn the 2 vowel words. And lastly, then, they learn all of the special phonics sounds. This was mind-blowing to me. I was so excited in the way they taught the vowels, as they taught them separately, and it seemed to be a tried and true method. So I went online and I found the curriculum used, and I started in. In 2 months' time, I'd used the Abeka first grade phonics curriculum with my 9-year-old daughter, and she was reading at a 4th grade level. She had sped through almost the entire book in that time. We were totally excited. But at the same time, I was super grieved because I felt like my mistake of pushing something that wasn't working well for my child and not understanding their brains and how they worked and their developmental stages was a huge hindrance. But that failure and that mistake led to one of our greatest successes, and that was that she was reading well and that I had found something that I loved, and I used it with all the rest of our children, and they enjoyed it, and it was short and sweet every day, and it was totally concrete. So one of the other big things that I learned from this is there's a lot of curriculum out there for us homeschoolers that appeals to us because it makes sense to our adult minds. When we look at it and we read through it, oh, this makes great sense to me. Oh, perfect. Why didn't I learn this way before? Well, we need to understand that sometimes, yes, it is great and it will work well, but at the other times, is it made for an abstract thinker or is it made for a concrete thinker? Are our child at a level where they can handle the abstract thinking, or are they still young and learning that concrete way? So being aware of those stages and those different elements was really a game changer for our homeschool. So I would love to go through the Abeka curriculum a little with you guys in the next video and show you exactly how I did use that. I tweaked it a little bit. I didn't do all of the things they suggest just to make it shorter, and it was still very successful. So stay tuned and hit that subscribe button.